Okay, good. So hopefully you'll learn something from this. We have to leave this for 7 seconds, and my 7 seconds were taken kind of while we were backing up. So I want to talk about 3 main areas where you lose money, discuss the concept of forensic accounting, and learn how the U.S. insurance system works. So the title of my talk is How to Get Paid for What You Do, and I can't echo him enough. I mean, he really segued nicely into that, where you have to realize that you're worth something. In fact, you're the most important person in that hospital, especially in a small community access hospital. You're going to bring in the most money. But our world's changing. 50% of physicians now are employed by either hospitals or large groups. There is still a place for private practice, but it's going to be harder and harder as you go by in the future. What I'm going to say also will apply somewhat to employed physicians, but it's more about private practice. And I think the philosopher Snoop Dogg said it the best when he said, keep your mind on your money and your money on your mind. Because if you're not doing it, somebody else is going to do it for you. Medicine is a business. We act like it's a dirty word. We don't teach it. We don't teach any of this stuff in medical school. But you deserve to be paid for your work. And administrators are going to take advantage of you and your altruism because they know that you took an oath to take care of patients. They know that if you picked up that phone to take care of that patient, you're going to go in and see him, whether you're going to get paid or not for that. So they will take advantage of that on purpose, and you have to minimize that amount that they do that to you. You're going to start generating income as you graduate, and you've got to make up for these years of delayed gratification, but you're really just getting started. So the obstacles that keep you from getting paid are 3, and I'm going to go over each one of these in detail. First, there's the insurance companies. Then there's you, which is you and the choices you make about your billing or billing companies, and there's the patient. And we can affect about 2 of those things. So insurance first, you see a patient in the hospital, you've signed up for these insurance companies, you're on their panel, you work them up, you operate them on, and you submit a bill to the insurance company. You think you're going to get paid based on the CPT code for that operation, but that's where it starts to get murky. There's a different value assigned by every different insurance company and every different policy within an insurance company. So you can also be out of network, even if you are on the panel for Blue Cross Blue Shield, you might be out of that network for another one of the Blue Cross plans. And your reimbursement has nothing to do with your fee schedule. You can set your own fee, which is usually 1.5 to 2 times the Medicare base rate, but that doesn't have anything to do with the insurance company who determines what you're going to get paid. So if you're a hospital-employed physician, it still applies because you have to go on an RVU basis, and that's assigned some random number, but you've got to keep track of these numbers in the same way. So going back to private practice, you send that bill to the insurance company and they reject it because you didn't get it pre-approved. This is happening more times than I can count. I'll do an appy, comes in through the emergency department, it's an emergency, I do a lap appy, I send them a bill, and it gets denied because I didn't get a pre-approval. Then they ask for more records, and then this lasts for about 6 weeks, and then they decide to pay you about $300 or not because you didn't get the pre-approval. And then you've got to add the patient to that mix. So maybe the hospital did billing quicker than you, and they beat you to the punch, and they collected the deductible from the patient. And that way, you now are kind of left out in the cold. You might beat the hospital to the deductible, but the allowable is 80%, so you have to get the rest from the patient, who may or may not pay you. So did we lose you guys yet? Because it gets very confusing. Now, you've all had health insurance your whole life, or at least your parents did, or maybe you did as you started going to the workforce, but most people don't actually know how it works, and your patients especially don't know how this works. They pay a monthly premium, and they're thinking, oh my God, that gets taken out of my check every month. Why are you sending me a bill? They have a deductible for services that they have to pay, and the insurance company has an allowable amount that it will pay you. Now, once the deductible from the patient is met, the insurance will kick in and pay a percentage, and it's usually something like 80-20. So in reality, take something simple like a lipoma removal, and you have a fee of $1,000. But you're on the panel for that insurance company, so they're going to pay you $700, and you've kind of agreed to that because you're on the panel. Okay, so how does this work? The operation allowable is $700, and the patient has a $500 deductible. So if the patient already had enough healthcare costs that year to meet their deductible, the insurance will kick in, and it pays 80%. So that's $560, 80% of the $700. The patient still owes you that 20%, okay? Hopefully you got that up front because they're very bad at paying you. And I'm not, maligning patients, but again, they say that, look, I've paid this deductible my whole life, and why am I paying this extra? So they don't like the fact that they're gonna have to pay a little bit more. Now, if they haven't met the deductible, the patient will pay up to their deductible of $500. The insurance pays 80% of what's left, which is $160. You still are owed $40 by that patient. Now, for the residents and the people that are just kind of coming out of training, did you really know how this works? Am I being too simplistic? Okay. Good. So you didn't meet your fee. That was still $1,000, but you made that contract and you're not allowed to bill the balance bill. That's actually illegal in most states. So you're never going to get up to that $1,000 and you can't step out of this. Like you can't say, well, let's just cut a deal, you and me. You're a Blue Cross patient, but you want to get this done tomorrow and you pay me $1,000, I'll do it. You're not allowed to do that. You actually can get dropped from the panel if you do that. Insurance companies are truly evil. When you look at their profits and you look at their administrative costs, 2 to 5% for Medicare, private insurance companies generally run around 17%. It looks kind of small there at the bottom, but that's a B after the 10 and a B after the 5. That's $10 billion of profit. $10 billion of profit. And this is 2018-19, and they made more money in 2020. In fact, they got a blank check from us in 2020 from the government and from the taxpayers of the United States. $10 billion. All right, so what can you control? You can't really control the insurance company. So let's talk about the surgeon. Well, there's factors that affect your side of this, right? Mostly it's documentation. And for surgeons, it's going to be your op note and also your clinic notes. And you've got to learn something about evaluation and management coding. And this isn't really the time, I don't have the time to go into that, but you really need to start looking at this. And you need to look at the personnel in your office and who you're going to use as your biller. So surgeons, you have to dictate what you do. You have to be very detailed, and you have to familiarize with the CPT codes and check everything twice. The CPT code book is not very hard to understand. It's very descriptive. And if you read it, you'll be able to realize that if you just describe the length of the incision or the layers of closure, that's going to make a difference in how much you get paid. Now, they're going to pay you a reduced rate for additional procedures, but it will add up. And be careful about the modifiers that are being used. Now, you do want to kind of see that -52, which is reduced services. They're going to have to add that, but I've had, where I've been called in as an interoperative consultant, and they'll put me as an assistant, or they'll put me as not a distinct surgical procedure. So watch those, because you're going to lose a lot of money from those. If you did have a really hard case, you can use a -22 modifier, but be careful with its usage. I usually get paid for it, but you don't want to use it every time you turn around. Bill everything that you do, although it's probably not going to make much of a difference. You hear these component separations, and these companies take you to a meeting and they're like, oh, you're going to get so much money for a component separation. Yeah, it takes you 3 hours, and I've never known Medicare to pay more than about $1,400 for anything. I mean, maybe if you're a neurosurgeon, you get paid a little bit more, or maybe if you're an orthopedic surgeon, but a general surgeon, you're going to top out around $1,200 to $1,400. And it took you 3 hours. So it's really not a great deal. But that being said, you should bill everything that you do. Now, what about your office? So interestingly enough, I make about 30% of my income from seeing patients in the office, not from operating. I was flabbergasted when I learned that when I did a practice analysis. So don't ignore the office. Don't act like it's a chore. I mean, that's where you generate your elective practice, which is what you really want, unless you were going to be an emergency general surgeon. Make sure that the charges are getting the biller. Make sure that you're appropriately documenting the level code, because you do get audited by insurance companies. Now, I'm on the panel for 2 state boards of medicine. I won't tell you which ones. You probably guess them. But every time I've had to kind of come down on somebody, for the medical board, it's because of documentation. Just dictate or type it. Don't put it off. Just do it right when you finish the case. Don't go back later. Addendums look horrible, especially when they're 30 days out. Now, if it's 10 minutes later and you forgot something, do an addendum. But 30 days later, you're dictating a death summary on somebody that died in the operating room 30 days earlier. It looks real bad. All right, so you can do billing in-house or you can do it outside. I've done both. In-house, they're only working your account. They get to know you. They're responsive to you. You can fire them if you don't like them. But there seems to be this upward trend where they're productive and then they start to get lazy, or maybe they just let their attention slip, or maybe it becomes something that they don't feel so strongly about anymore. And they may not be up to speed, they may not maintain their certifications, and they may get pretty complacent, and they may steal from you, which has also happened to me. Outside billing, well, there's more personnel, they're usually better trained, there's some checks and balances there, but you may be a very small account to them, so they may not follow up on small charges, which will really add up over time. Done both. I'm currently suing my last billing company. They quit pursuing my charges, and they didn't bill about half my surgeries for a 2-month period, and almost went out of business. It was pretty horrible. They did try to. I took one of the billers that had my account, who had told me they had told her to quit billing my stuff. They were like, they wouldn't bill anything I did inpatient. And they sued her too and tried to enforce a do not compete clause, and we won that. So far we got that injunction lifted, but it's an ongoing story, so it's a real thing. Shrug off everything else about this presentation, but you need to check, double check, triple check, and don't trust anybody. Show me the money. Show me the money. At least every month or quarterly, you need to sit down with your biller, and you need to follow the money. I picked random cases, like weird stuff, like, okay, Mrs. Jones came in and she gave me a $10 copay. Where'd it go? How was it paid? Was it cash? Was it a check? Was it a credit card? And show me when it was deposited in my bank. The operations you have to know. I mean, I go down a list. You have to keep your own database for your operations. Go every single one of those because those are big dollar items. But you can't let go of that 30% that you're generating in the office. And you have to sit down in the same room with them. You open your bank statement, your electronic record, and your billing software, and you make them show you the money. And if they said, well, we haven't been paid yet, and it's been 6 weeks, well, what's happening? They should have generated a note that I've talked to the insurance company. They requested more records, and it was on this date, and I talked to this person. And if they can't show you that, you need to get a new biller. Because they are going to fight you. The insurance companies will summarily dismiss 30% of your bill charges, but you have to hold them to the fire and keep after it. And just for, randomly, I already talked about that. All right, so word of caution, these people aren't your friends, they're not. You think that they're your family, you have a small mom and pop office like I do, I have two and a half employees. They're not your friends. Whether your kid can go to Notre Dame or Boston College or goes to your local community college is going to be determined by what you collect. So don't F around, don't fool around with this. This is literally your family's future. So the patients, it's the shortest section. I'm kind of a little bit over. They're just not going to pay you. So don't ever, ever, ever do an elective surgery on a patient that says I'll pay you back or I'll pay half now. Just don't do it. Look, here's the thing. You won't see a dime from them. And again, I'm just saying that, maybe I'm a little cynical or skeptical, but I think that if you get over your shyness about money, like Dr. Pesta was saying, that people kind of expect that. It's not dirty. It makes the world go around. Everybody's got a job. Everybody goes and pays for groceries. They buy a car. So patients actually expect it. And it's kind of funny that it takes your courage to get to talk to them about the cash price or this or that, or hey, you owe me this. They actually kind of expect it. And so act like it's natural. You can work out a payment plan if you want, but what I've found that the office has to ask these patients for money when they come in if they have a balance. And they have to tell them what they owe. Now, I'll do an appy and it will be free, and my bill's like $1,500, and they're going to get the bill from the hospital, and that's probably unrealistic for people in my community. I'm on the Texas-Mexico border. It's kind of a poor community. But if you tell them, like, look, if you pay me $500, we'll just call it even, patients will generally respond to something like that. I think $1,500 for 10 minutes of work is a lot of money. So you can work out a payment plan with them. You can decrease that at any time that you want, because it's better to get something than nothing. So final thoughts. It's business. You deserve to get paid. Think of a lawyer or an airline pilot. Look at Scully landed that jet in the Hudson in New York. He gets paid $400,000 a year for that, not for the other 2,000 landings that he made safely. He got paid for that, and that's what surgeons are. We're there for those eventualities where things really go bad, so you should get paid for it. Don't be shy. You wouldn't go into a grocery store and walk out with a free bag of groceries. If they don't pay you, they're actually stealing from you, so don't be shy about it. Insurance, and my thoughts about insurance. Don't make it easy for them to screw you. Look, the hospital can't exist without you. You're the engine that drives the system. Don't undervalue yourself. Patients do appreciate you, but you have to make a living, and they understand that. So don't be ashamed of that, of talking and bringing that up with them. I think that's it. Thank you. Sorry.